This is The Resilient Life, where we believe that every human will struggle in this life. Our challenge is to struggle well. I'm Ryan Manion. I lost my brother to war, my mom to cancer, and I'm the daughter of a retired Marine. I'm also a wife, mom, author, and president of one of the nation's leading veteran service organizations. Join me and some incredible guests as we explore the value of struggling well through life's inevitable challenges. Welcome to another episode of the Resilient Life podcast. I'm bringing back another fan favorite to the podcast today, the founder and CEO of Goruck, Jason McCarthy. If you recall, last time, if you're an avid listener, last time I had Jason on to talk about the power of community. And what I'd love to do today, Jason, is to dive into a little bit more of the power of being outdoors. It's something that you talk about a lot. And I think it's something that's so important right now that we have a conversation on. So thanks for joining us again. I'm excited to have you back.
You asked me to do anything, I say yes, Ryan. So it's awesome to be back.
Awesome. So I was doing a little bit of research because I take a lot of what you put through your stories, and I love how you're pushing just get outside. And I've had to, also you live in Florida, so it's very nice to look at your pictures of being outside in the beautiful Florida weather. And I've had to really dig deep mentally to take that and apply that in my Northeast terrible winter weather that we're having. But I have found that there is something so therapeutic about getting outside. I've been really trying to avidly get out there no matter the weather conditions. Last week, I took my 7-year-old son and 2 dogs on a 3-mile ruck. It was snowing. And I'm like, well, do I do this? And I'm like, yeah, I've got snow pants. I've got snow boots. I'll put them on. And my husband and I had like the best time. I was like, this was so much fun. And my kid loved it. We called it an adventure ruck, and we just got out there. And, researchers have long recognized and studied the positive effects that being outdoors has on your mental health. And I found, as I was looking as far back as 1989, studies have found that people exposed to urban environments are forced to use their attention to overcome the effects of constant stimulation, described as hard fascination, which induces cognitive fatigue over time. In contrast, natural environments benefit from soft fascination, which refers to scene content that automatically captures attention while simultaneously eliciting feelings of pleasure. I read that and it hit me because, like you, I've got young kids that, and I think my youngest, my 7-year-old, is he's the most, I would say, my husband and I call it addicted to electronics. And when we pull those out of his hand and we'll do these kind of resets, it's almost like an addict going through withdrawal. And we can see kind of how his brain changes, and we can see the difference when we're actively pushing him to be outside and when he's sitting playing Roblox for 4 hours and we're like, oh crap, time to get him off the phone. And, I don't want to get weighed down by talking about COVID or the pandemic, but it's worth addressing that over the past 2 years, people worldwide have stayed indoors, perhaps more than ever. They've limited travel, they've limited trips outside of your home. And my first question for you is, did you know about any of this research when you created Goruck? Or did realizing the benefits of being outdoors and participating in outdoor activities come later for you?
I mean, my generation, we didn't have all of these screens to stare at all the time, right? I mean, we got a Nintendo and a Super Nintendo, and my screen time was limited, but it was not as, it was pretty addictive, but not quite all everywhere where you can't bring it to the dinner table. You can't do this stuff. I mean, I grew up playing sports, right? And I feel like we forget the most foundational things in life, the stuff that makes us actually happy. And we just start grabbing for stuff all the time because of the Joneses and the marketers and, some of our hard wiring working against us. Because the easy stuff, right? You can go buy pleasure anytime you want to, right? All different forms and shapes and sizes. And the army in my time in there on a small team, we trained together, we lived together, we fought together, we bled together, you know, and it was just this tribal bond that we had. And the thing that one of my buddies brought up later is you're always kind of on your feet. You're always doing something. Yeah, you know, there's a desk and stuff for the captain and stuff like that. But the rest of us, the ones that work, right? You know, we're always just doing stuff. And, you know, it really bonds and brings people together. So through Goruck, I mean, I just was kind of living the life that I wanted, that I knew made me happy. And it took me some time to realize what exactly that was, and then to fight the urges to just stay inside and pretend like that was ever going to actually work. Because you can chase all the accolades that you can get with you know, your nubs, your fingers and your keyboard and all of that stuff. But are you actually a human being that's happy? And I think it's just, you know, the hardest thing to do is to simplify your life, right? And so much of it involves you, and you have to take care of yourself, and you have to take care of your family, and you have to take care of yourself to take care of your family. And we try to isolate stuff like mental health and all this stuff. It's all tied together. So the short is, you know, there's a million different studies since the beginning of man, most of them just done by people that were doing it, to suggest that being outside with other people is really, really good for us. And now there's no saber-toothed tigers to hunt us. There's none of this type of stuff really. And it's like, we know we need to do more of that. The question is how do we do it? And the best way to do it is what you did. It's to do it together. Instead of sending your kid out and say, hey, go outside and play. It's no, let's go. You forge these bonds, you do it. And it's really rewarding. And we know this. We all know this. It's just how do we get more of us to do it?
Yeah. Well, and you know, I think there are some bucolic neighborhoods that still exist in the United States where the kids all get together in the cul-de-sac and go out and play. You know, we don't live in not an area, but our neighborhood doesn't. Where my kids are the youngest and practically the only kids in the neighborhood, so they don't have that. And I am guilty sometimes of being like, just get outside. I don't care if you're riding your bike. I don't care if you're reading, just sit outside and do something. You know, it's 57 degrees here today in Philadelphia, and I'm like pushing the kids outside. Like, you cannot be on your phones right now because it's too nice. But it is about, like, if you're actively saying, okay, I'm going to go with you, you know, well, then it does change that. I remember I tell my kids a lot. I'm like, you know, when and you do this thing and you cringe because it reminds you of your parents when they used to tell you they walk 10 miles to school. But, you know, my husband will be like, I was out the door 10 a.m. and I didn't come home until the sun went down. I remember living in Virginia. You know, I was 10 years old, and I would go out with my friends and we'd climb through the sewer systems. We'd get flashlights and we'd pull up manholes. And I think about that and I'm like, well, I don't know if I want my kids doing that now. But the experiences we had, like, I'm 42 years old and I still remember those things from childhood. Kids aren't going to remember sitting on their phone. And that's not going to be some core memory that lives with them. So
Let's
it's,
hope not.
yeah, exactly. Let's hope not. But I want to get back to, so I asked you kind of like, did you know about this generalized theory as you were creating Goruck? But I also think it's important for the listeners. I think most of the community that listens to this podcast is familiar with Goruck. But for those that are not, tell us what the company Goruck is in its, you know, in its most overarching terms. What is Goruck?
Yeah, so Goruck, the rucking company. What that means is you put weight on your back and you go for a walk, right? And so there's various components of this, but you know, there's a manufacturing side. We build and manufacture the rucksacks and the weight. We build all that stuff from the ground up, right? Not just white label and stuff, like a proper manufacturing stuff. But what really excites me are people. And you know, the Army Special Forces, that's a people business. It's a people business, the people that you serve with, which I get goosebumps when I start to, you know, think about just how much I love those guys that I served with, right? And the community that I come from. And then, you know, you're dealing with foreign fighters in our case, right? You know, the Iraqis, and how you work by, with, and through them. That's a people business. You can't just tell them what to do and just expect it to be done. And so as Goruck was in its infancy, I mean, I still just put people first. I mean, we started running events, and what happened is that bringing people together in the real world outside, it's this thing loosely dubbed social fitness, social health, if you will, right? You bring people together in the real world and push them and challenge them and make them work together. And we don't care if you're black or white or young or old or military or civilian or pink or purple or polka dotted or gay or straight or whatever, right? Just show up, right? All those boundaries that exist in the forums masquerading as communities, they all evaporate when you're there together. You see people for people, which is the goal, right? See people for people, because that's what we all are. And so, we have 500 ruck clubs around the country. They just get together. It's community led. They go for rucks, they do push-ups, they go grab beers on Friday nights or whatever they want to do, right? People coming together with people. And so that's the part that I'm the most proud of, is our community. By community, I mean real world communities, plural, forming together this larger scale kind of Goruck as the umbrella.
So I think we shared the story the last time you were on about the first time I met you. You guys gave me a rucksack. We rucked. I mean, it didn't have anything in it. It was a beautiful rucksack that maybe had some newspaper in it. And we rucked around a lake in Georgia. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with it for everything that you're talking about, because staying physically active for me was always a very isolating event. It was me going on long runs where even if I was running with someone, I wasn't physically capable of holding a conversation. And so this idea that I could be physically active, but also have conversation, bond with people, create those relationships, I loved it. And so I fell in love with that. I think it's at least 3 years ago now that we met and we did that. And I have a bunch of rucksacks. I preach it to everyone that it's the way. And I actually put out, but I'm a very basic rucker when it comes to the Goruck community. Let me preface it by that, because you guys do all sorts of really cool and physically challenging, so if you want to be like me and you want to just get out there, put some weight, and get active, or if you actually want to go and push yourself in a really, really physical way, that opportunity presents itself through the work that you do. I had some questions come in through Instagram because I had shared that you were coming on, and somebody had put, and I thought this was a great question, like, what fitness level do I need for success with a ruck? 0 to 10, couch potato to marathon finisher.
So let's talk about success first,
Okay.
right? Because that you've got to start with anything. Like in the military, you start with intent, right? And so my take is what are your goals in life? If you want to feel better, if you want to be able to do more, I mean, you need 0, right? You need to be able to walk, I suppose. If you can't, then someone can push you, literally, right? And so the point is I don't care how much weight you have in your back. I don't care how long you go, right? I want it to be about something that is rewarding, fun, as challenging as you need it to be. This morning, I rucked to work with 30 pounds in my back. That's not a lot for me because I've been doing this for a long time, right? It's like just not super feeling it. And other days, it's more. It's not about me, though. It's about me for me, because I want to feel a certain way on whatever day. But if you are at a 0, basically, you need to walk more, right? We get prescribed all these things and we think we can go buy them or we can subscribe to them, right? So look back at the last 2 years. Every single measure of human health is worse. Every single one. Loneliness, depression, anxiety, obesity, childhood obesity, suicide, every single measure of human health is worse. And ultimately, subscriptions to digital training programs are up. You can stare at your screen all day at work, and then you can stare at your screen and have Mr. Spandex tell you to pedal faster. The problem is it doesn't work, right? We are social creatures that crave these basic needs that Maslow describes, right? And then part of that is you need to go outside, right? And you can substitute for days on a treadmill if you want. Like it's do what's best for you, but just know that you can't defeat human nature, right? We are who we are. So if you're a 10 on the fitness scale, well, we got something for that too. You just up the weight.
Yeah.
I mean, you can up the weight, you can up the distance, you can up the speed. If you're 0, you probably need to go outside more and walk more. It's real basic. And so if this is sort of the license or the permission to say, you're welcome here, I say with no ego here, like we want to build better Americans. And there is no greater gift that we have as a people than the health of our people. And so it's very, very, very clear that we need to focus on this, not by just popping pills or waiting for shots to make us healthier or for, the latest thing that we can buy to do better by us. We need to actually assume some personal responsibility and say, what I'm doing isn't working. I don't have enough energy. I'm not healthy enough. I'm not strong enough. I don't walk enough, whatever the case may be. And then show yourself some compassion, right? Because it's been very stressful and that takes its toll on us. But we are like, it's time. If you're waiting for permission to get out there and seize your health and move forward and get better, then find a way to do it. And I think it's go outside and do something that's accessible to you and have fun doing it. And that's usually better with somebody else. But if it's got to be you and the dog, that's somebody else in my book. So do that,
Yeah. And, somebody else had written in like, what is a great way to get back into rucking after a hiatus of not doing it? And I'll say, when I first started rucking, again, my first ruck was with an empty rucksack. But when I started doing it on my own, you guys sent me a rucksack and I was like, all right, well, I have a responsibility now to use this. But I wasn't at a place where I felt comfortable sticking actually, the first time I went out and rucked by myself, I put a 10-pound plate in. And it hurt my shoulders. And I'm like, it hurts too much that I'm not going to continue doing it. So I'm not ready for that yet. I ended up sticking 2 soup cans in my rucksack. And probably for a few weeks, that's what I had until I felt like I was ready to move up those notches. And, you said something like where a lot of people over these last 2 years were waiting, we're buying these online subscriptions. And I think that I look at Peloton as a prime example. They were the hottest ticket in town. I don't know how many people, I can count on both hands the number of people that went out that are in my direct, close circle that went out and bought Pelotons. And I can also count that probably 9 out of 10 of them didn't even start using those Pelotons. It kind of showed up and they didn't really use them. And you can see now Peloton's stock has gone down. They did this mass production, but now that people are able to get back into doing things and being around other people, there's no need for Peloton anymore. Right now, there's definitely a group of Peloton people, but you can see that the need for Peloton only existed when we were not able to be around other people, when we were isolated. And so I think we have a natural calling to want to do everything that you're saying that Goruck provides. And people, if given the opportunity, that's what they want to do. But sometimes, again, if you're not into something and you don't know enough about something, there is that kind of hesitation of, well, how do I begin? And I think you guys make the barrier to entry very low. And I think that's why you've created such an amazing company, because there is a low barrier to entry, but you can also take it all the way up to, challenging yourself in ways that you never thought you possibly would.
I mean, you don't have to, this is not complicated. And it's worth saying because everyone is so skeptical of something that's just so simple, right? I mean, can anybody, unless you're maybe a mailman or something, or what, it's like, who gets too many steps in their life, right? Who? I mean, if you want to, you think about the longevity of your life, and you say, what are the things I want to be able to do? Walking is probably at the top of that list, well, pretty close anyway, yeah. Right? Well, we'll just leave it at that. And you say the best way to get good at walking and to stay healthy and strong for walking is to walk. And a way to get even better at walking is to ruck, right? And so if you, it's not cycling and it's not swimming, though those are good. It's definitely not running, right? Completely different movement set with completely different injury rates than marching or rucking is. And so it's like, look, you don't have to use a Goruck rucksack. I mean, they're specifically built for this.
But
You
they're
don't
really
have
good.
to. They are good, but you can use whatever you want. Just go outside, put some weight in it, go for a walk. Your shoulders might hurt the first time. That's okay. That's them getting stronger, right? It's going to trickle to your whole body, including your brain, right? Which isn't that so much what we need more than anything else. It's just the confidence from doing things that we can actually do and sustain and scale up. Because too oftentimes what happens is, and it happens really around New Year's, we pick these impossible goals that have nothing to do with happiness and will actually lead us to be unhappy, right? Like, I'm going to do this, make this money and get this whatever, and I'm going to lose 50 pounds because if you enjoy the process of doing that, then that's great, because you won't get those days back regardless. Just more of us need to go outside. This is a reminder to myself as well. I go through phases where I don't sleep as well. I go through phases where, I'm super focused on this part of work, or I've got to get to work early and leave late. And like, man, I gotta re-engage a little bit here. And so I do. It's simple though. Go outside, have fun, take your phone calls with a rucksack on, or just walking outside. You can ease into this as slowly or as quickly as you would like.
Yeah. So, another question, because we always kind of talk about the way you can ease into it, but somebody wrote in, what is the hardest ruck event that you have ever done, and what made it so difficult?
I go back to the Army, and there were just our culminating exercise is called Robin Sage, right? And it's kind of like a mock war where you link up. They take over the state of North Carolina, and you're sleeping in barns. You're dealing with guerrilla chiefs. I mean, it's very realistic and very awesome, right? It teaches you about the human terrain as much, but you have to have the physical terrain as well. So we jumped in, right? And that 125-pound rucksack between, you're dangling it from your belt and it's in front of you. You're waddling like a penguin at best. Your buddy has to help you get up to waddle to the whatever, right? And you jump and you land and you thank God that you didn't smash your legs or whatever, break your face. And then you put that tick that sucks the blood out of your back, right? You put that tick on your back, and our infiltration was 18 plus hours. And it was just excruciating. It's stupid weight. I mean, and part of it is it's as much mental as physical. I mean, some units do carry that much in combat. It's a really terrible practice in reality, because it's usually the commander who's like, you got to be ready for every contingency, so bring everything. And the best thing is to accept a little bit more risk. Speed is security, and go lighter. However, that was not the purpose of this. And so it was an 18-hour ruck with 125 plus pounds. And it hurts to think about. And, we were all in the same boat. Everyone was suffering and nobody quit. And it was, it's one of those things that I gained a lot of confidence just knowing that I could do something like that. And so it was a worthwhile thing. And we realized this was not cold turkey. I mean, rucking is the foundation of special forces training. So they started us out with 45 pounds for, selection. And then that it transitions up and the mileage gets more and more and more. So don't just pick up a ruck, no matter how tough you are. If you haven't done rucking before, you might finish, but you might get kind of unnecessarily hurt. And that was a tough one though.
Yeah. That sounds pretty tough. So, obviously through your work with Goruck, it's easy to see you hold a passion for bringing people together for outdoors, for fitness. And Goruck is now a big part of a 3-day festival that's coming up in Jacksonville, Florida, where your base, where Goruck is headquarters. What was the inspiration behind the Sandlot Fitness Festival? And can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So, in the middle of the pandemic, what I just started to see was once kind of realized that, the beaches are back open and it's okay to be outside. And I'm not going to accept, the fear mongering, like you can't go outside because you might, breathe on someone 100 yards away and give them the virus. Like at some point, I'm like, life has risk and I'm going crazy indoors, all this stuff. And it's like, I just started to see a lot of other brands, companies, and people that I respect, and everyone's kind of saying the same thing, right? It's about community and how do we form it, and people focusing on other people's health and teaching them how to do it. A lot of it virtually at that time, and I was just like, we're going to need something where everyone can come together and say, all right, let's be outside, let's enjoy each other's company in the real world, because for too long now, everything has just been virtual, virtual, virtual. All the businesses are pointing that way. Everything is pointing that way. And look, I'm not anti-technology. I think technology is a tool. And right now it's being sold as the key to your life, and your never-ending happiness is gonna pipe through your phone. And I just reject that. It is a dystopian nightmare to think about your life as a phone or in a phone, which is kind of the same thing, right? And so to say, okay, Florida's a good place because we know it's going to be open for business. And that's been, that's been clear for a while. So it took that kind of strain away from the people are not going to come in and shut anything down. And then it's like, okay, so what are we going to do? Like, let's throw a big giant fitness party, invite all our friends and our people. Let's have speakers, let's have brands, let's have communities, let's okay, great, let's build an obstacle course. So I called up my buddies that run Savage Race and was like, hey, and Sam's just down the road in Gainesville, and we've had a partnership with them for a while. And hey, will you guys look at putting a big obstacle course on the grounds here? And they're like, yeah, that passes the smell test. We can do that. They've only done long courses before. This is 17 obstacles on a quarter-mile course, right in a field, right? So they kind of came on, and that's another way. So instead of just having people show up in a field, it was, hey, there's these structures, there's this thing to do. And obstacle courses come from the military, right? They're training grounds. That's where you gain confidence from doing things that you don't get to do. You do them, and then you gain confidence. And that's how life works, right? And there's no kind of silver bullet for, oh, I'm just going to wake up one day after my hopes and my prayers and be confident. It doesn't work like that. You have to kind of find new challenges. And this is an accessible one. It's kind of anchoring the weekend as a whole. It's just these big structures. So you got to earn the best views at Sandlot JAX, right? And then I called up my friends at Rogue Fitness. It's like, hey, will you guys send down some equipment and a rig and stuff? And they're like, yeah, we're in, right? Outdoor fitness, great. Right up our alley. They do stuff for the CrossFit Games and the Rogue Invitational and all that since forever. And it's a great company running out of Columbus, Ohio. Great people, great values, great mission. Can't say enough nice things about Rogue Fitness. So they're like, yeah, we're in. And we started to say, okay, now we've got in Gorucks, all our stuff's here, sandbags and rucks and all this stuff. It's like, okay, now let's not do this ourselves. Let's call up all these other communities, because the way that the world has gone, whether it's the nonprofit world or it's the business world or it's the fitness world or it's anything, is everybody just kind of gets busy doing their own thing. And how do people find new stuff to do? How do we discover new things? How do we discover new types of training or fitness? And I'll give you one important example from my life, which is, yoga is not known as something that special forces dudes should do, right? Like when I was coming through the Q course and coming to my team, like if you said, hey man, I'm doing yoga every day, that's kind of not something you're going to bring to the team room, right? But I did, and I kept it off to the side, and I did it because I wanted to be more resilient against injury. I wanted to be a better special forces soldier. And as it turns out, a lot of guys do that. Not everyone yet, but a lot of guys do that. And you see those of us that are a little bit older, right? It's like, man, you gotta start to find the things that are gonna keep you in recovery and still doing the things that you want to do. Like, I think all special forces guys should do yoga all the time, right? It will make them better. All infantry types should do yoga all the time. But, where do you get that permission and that license? Well, I'll tell you, there's going to be a lot of special forces guys that are going to do yoga at Sandlot JAX, and there's going to be yoga classes that are offered, as well as, how much can you bench press, or how much can you pick up, how much weight, and how fast can you do the obstacle course, all of it. And there's this ability to kind of have global training thought leader or global trainers that are like the best in their field come and lead these classes that are, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes tops. So it's not just, I'm going to show up and do this one thing and leave. There's all sorts of different, you guys are going to put on the Manion WOD, which is awesome, right? There's the obstacle course, which is awesome. There's yoga, there's mobility, there's recovery. There's all sorts of different stuff with a lot of different people from different backgrounds. And how do people meet people? How do brands meet each other? And I just thought, instead of showing up at, a fitness festival or a fitness expo where you watch people exercise, or you kind of go around and collect pamphlets on stuff, which is okay, but how about come do stuff too? And then meet the people that are there, and then go burn it down in the town at night, right? Go have fun then. So come, let's have fun. Let's have Yingling Beer as our beer sponsor, right? And then we got the bourbon sponsor and wine sponsor. And, there's, we're trying to figure out how to get water. I'm like, optional, right? Stuff like that. But the point is it's meant to be fun. Bring the people together at a time when I think that, mental health, physical health, and social health has been completely neglected, right? In all of this, we talk about mental health as if you can just go to the shrink or the wizard and get tuned up, the room with the waterfall in the background, and talk about feelings and stuff. I don't really want to do that, and I know a lot of people that don't, but I think that there is a super, super connective tissue between social health and mental health and physical health as well. But if you say, hey, if you come together with like-minded people and do fun stuff, that's really good for your mental health. If it's fitness related, and you do some push-ups or some squats and some obstacle course, whatever, that's really good for your physical health too. We yearn to be part of these tribes and these groups and these fun kind of communities. So we really wanted to kind of say, all right, let's turn the page a little bit, and let's meet up here and kick off the rest of our lives right now, in case we've wasted a little bit too much time the last couple of years. Let's recenter on community and health and fitness and have fun doing it.
I love it. So for the people out here listening, they're going to want to know how they can be a part of this Sandlot Fitness Festival.
So it is April 22nd to 24th in Jacksonville, Florida. It's right on the river downtown. And there are 3-day passes for all the fun, and there are single-day passes. Travis Manion Foundation has a code. It's sunshine_TMF. And if you use that code, you'll get 20% off. And there's some, it also benefits TMF on the back end as well. So we wanted to bring in, you all and other communities that we love and respect. And we want more people to get exposure to you and to your mission. I think everybody should be a part of TMF in some way, shape, form, or capacity. There's just so much good that's going on. And, you're all about building that bridge between the military and the civilian worlds. And it's great. I mean, we've got a lot of military folk coming as well. My neighbor, who you'll meet, was he's like our military liaison on this. He was a Top Gun instructor, right? He fought, however you say it, in the first Gulf War, and was deputy commandant at the Naval Academy. And so the NAS JAX is local. There's a bunch of military folks are coming out as well. And that's kind of the fun part for Jacksonville, is involve the businesses, the local leaders that are into fitness and health, which all corporations are to some degree. And then you've got, just the people here. It's a very active group. We're able to be outside, and it's sunny, and that's fantastic. And then to involve the military as well, it's great. So, you take all those kind of groups and put them in a field and have some fun.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'll be there along with a good crew from the Travis Manion Foundation. And, you touched on that there'll be a nice veteran community there as well. And it's something that, again, I think one of the reasons why we feel so connected in our partnership with Goruck is, you're a veteran yourself, so you understand the need for community within our veteran population. And we know that based off of research, 55% of veterans leaving military service say they feel disconnected from community in particular. That's a huge data point that we reference a lot because it's really one of the main reasons why Travis Manion Foundation exists, why we do what we do. I heard just today, I heard some really kind of devastating news that in a couple of the service branches, suicide is at an all-time high. And I think we look at, again, the last 2 years. I don't know what the national statistics are, but I have to imagine that they mirror the veteran population. And, we talked a lot about community, physical health, and like you said, mental health, social health. I don't know how much more we can beat our drum in emphasizing this idea that social health is connected to mental health, that community is connected to mental health, that until we as a society start identifying these preventative and proactive approaches to mental health, we're going to continue to have a problem. And this morning on the Today Show, I'm walking by and I just happened to see like how to overcome anxiety when going back to work. A lot of people are getting back into the office. And so this has become a thing. People are now anxious about being around other people. And I don't have a question around it, but I'm just curious of your take on that because it's sad. It's a sad state that we're in. That number one, we're in this place where that our mental health decline is at an all time high. But number two, that we're not looking at it in the right way. Like we're just not, as a society, looking at the approach in a right way to how we overcome this.
Yeah, I mean, you make me. I'm like you're getting me worked up here, right? I'm kind of like I need to like my kid would say, take a deep breath, Jack. It's like, right, and let's tackle this at sort of the highest level, which is nobody has ever, because we'll just tackle like people are anxious because we've all been sold so much fear the last couple of years. It just starts to, I mean, at some point I turn into just the kind of like, I don't care anymore. Right. And I like life has risk. Life has risk. So if you say, here's what I can control about this. If we define success is not living forever. It's not going to happen. Right. So you say, what can I do? Take a deep breath. What can I do to live a better life that is more rewarding for me, that allows me to be happy and pay whatever I can forward to others? And, living by yourself behind a screen is never going to get you there. And so you have to go out and you have to be a social animal. And if you say, okay, life has risk, it does. What can I control? And the big conversation, if we started to focus on inspiring each other to take care of our health and our fitness and our well-being, then that would be a much more productive conversation than, talking more about masks and social distancing. Like people we know, we kind of know at this point, people have made their minds up. And so I'm in the same boat with you. I can kind of beat the drum a little bit louder, but only from the standpoint of we have to empower the people to give the other people the license to kind of make the decisions that are actually good for their health. And, social health is really important. Mental health is tied to it. Physical health. Like what can we do? This doesn't have to be where I'm going to trade the next 2 years or 3 years or 4 years of my life until it's safe to go outside again. I just, we're just waiting for someone to say what. Go outside. Here it is. Check it out. Check it out. Go outside. You know, if you're waiting, go do it. Go find some friends and go live your life, right? Take the risks that you are comfortable taking and be respectful of others. You know, there's personal responsibility tied up in that. And we need to kind of, let's do more of that.
Well, I also find it interesting, listen, we can talk all day about not getting on social media, but like, I mean, we're both on social media. We both use it as a platform to talk about the work that we do. And one of the things that I did for my own mental health was I used to be a person that I followed everyone. I followed people I loved and I followed people I hated because I wanted to see it all. I wanted to know it all. I wanted to digest where everybody was. And I found over the last couple years that that was actually not good for my mental health. And so I did like a cleansing activity specifically on Instagram where I got rid of, these voices that I didn't want to hear. I was kind of tired of like, I want to hear both sides of the coin. I wanted to just follow people that were going to lift me up to be the person that I want to be. And I have found it so awesome. When I wake up in the morning and I am guilty. I try to be the person that my alarm goes off and I get up and I drink my coffee and I meditate for 10 minutes before I look at my phone. I don't. My alarm goes off and I spend the next 10 minutes looking at my phone till my snooze goes off again, and that's when I get off my phone and I get up. But now, as opposed to before, when I would scroll through my phone and I'd almost, some days I would get up and I'd be angry before I even got out of bed. And now I'm scrolling through like Jason outside with his kids watching the sunset, Dan Bailey in his barn, doing 100 burpees, just like people that inspire me to want to be the best version of myself. And I found that like really, it's been a cleansing activity for me. So if I could say anything about using social media to help you, I mean, there are ways that you can use it, like you said, as a tool. And that was something for me where I said, I don't need to digest information anymore just so I feel like I have information from every side. Like I need to digest the information that is going to make my brain tick in the way I want it to tick as I move through my day. And so this whole idea of again, when you talk about getting outside, just doing it, just getting outside, it's almost so easy it's complicated. And I think for people it's just about taking that first step. I've been really committed over the past several weeks of hitting those, and as some people are going to cringe, but I wear my Apple Watch because I want to know that I'm hitting 10,000 steps a day. I want to know that I've done what I needed to do. And when I'm home and I'm working, I'll get to last week. I think it was last Wednesday night. It was 10 o'clock at night. I just got back from a work dinner and I was at like 4,000 steps because I was in the office all day. And I'm like, oh my God. So, it was 10 o'clock at night. I wasn't going outside, but I got on the treadmill and I pounded out 4 miles, just rucked on the treadmill for 4 miles. I needed to get to that 10,000 versus this past weekend. I took my kids to Annapolis and we walked around all day long. We went to the basketball game, the wrestling match, the lacrosse game. Anywhere we went, we walked. I was hitting like 17,000 steps without even looking at my Apple Watch because I was just being active and present with my family. So
yeah. So Ryan, I'm with you. So like I have a Garmin, not an Apple, but I have found that, we have to lead an examined life. Let's start there. We have to lead an examined life. And if you look at it as, this is making me anxious and miserable, if that lasts for too long, then you need to make a change, whatever that change might be. And I've found that I don't want all my text messages and all that stuff on my watch. I don't, right? But I'm with you. The only measure of fitness that I actually track consistently is my step count, because it's something that I don't hit 10,000 every day. But some days I'm way up, and it's just like the habits and the trends of our lives are what's really going to determine our next chapters. I mean, if every day all you do is eat, quadruple quarter pounders and sit at home and play video games, like it's going to catch up with you. And if you, on the other hand, eat a salad every once in a while and get to 10,000 steps, it's a good goal, right? I have the same goal. And what I've noticed is that over times when it dips down, I don't sleep as well. You know how correlated sleeping is with mental health? It's huge. And mental health just means you feel better too, by the way, right? I mean, it doesn't always have to just be, the shrink with the waterfall in the background. It's like, oh, you feel better, right? There's a million different reasons for that, but you can absolutely take care of the PT. And it's like what your dad told you and what you recounted in your book. Like, if you don't feel good, go for a run, and it helps. Go outside, go for a run or a ruck or whatever, and so it is back to that examined life. And each of us has to look at our own and say, this is my purpose in life. This is my mission. Like, start there. Those are the things that are going to actually keep you driving forward. And if you don't have that, you're going to just chase pleasure all day long, every day. And you're going to try to buy whatever it is you can for motivation. But start with the motivation. Like, what are you motivated to do? And why I love you and your mission statement and your organization so much is because it is, if not me, then who means send me, right? It's like, I want to go and I want to serve others. And if you pour your energy into that, like, all these other things become distraction, and that becomes your mission in life. And then everything else just starts to click. Otherwise, you're just grasping for stuff to try to provide meaning, and it doesn't work.
I love that line. You have to live an examined life. That's definitely going to show up in some of our marketing materials for this episode, because that's brilliant. Like, live an examined life, because there are times where I'm like, is this like so corny that I'm tracking? But it's a way for me to stay accountable. It's a way for me to say, like, I'm going to make sure that I can look back and see what I'm doing each and every day. And that is living an examined life. And so as we close out the episode today, I want to ask you, because this is all about this podcast is all about resilience, what it means to live a resilient life. Do you think that living an examined life means living a resilient life?
I think you have to lead an examined life in order to live a resilient life. So the short answer is yes, and the reason is because failure is a bruise, not a tattoo, right? Like, great line. I steal it from an old friend, right? And it's one of those things, like, look, you have to but why examine your life? It's because you need to figure out who you are, what makes you tick, what you're passionate about. And you need to kind of pour your heart and your energy into that. And that is what I think about when I think about freedom. It's this phrase, we say it so many different ways, but we have to have the freedom to go forth and conquer, if you will. We have to have the freedom to kind of lead our best lives. And when you do that, you're going to be forced to be resilient, because you're going to stray and you're going to have to get back on. You get back on because it's an examined life, right? That comes from the people around you. I mean, this is like stoicism as well. It's not just, it's just like the modernization of this, right? Is you have the people around you that influence you. They help you, right? Too often we have this idea of, Jason Bourne style resiliency. And I just reject that. There is a time and a place for that, but it goes to the well too much. What we need is our tribes. We need our families. We need our dogs. We need our communities. And each of them has this role. Like, I need some time with just the guys to go toss some sandbags and talk about the same problems that all of us have with whatever, and that probably men have been having since the beginning of time. And it's like, M has her girlfriends, and sometimes we're all coming together, but it's the people that we're around that make us accountable. And these are the people that lift us up. So social media that you talked about earlier is really just a metaphor for this. It's like surround ourselves with the people that make us the best versions of ourselves. And when you're the best version of yourself, you're going to keep chasing that task and that mission and that purpose that is most yours. And when you do that, you're going to succeed a lot, and you're going to fail a lot. And when you do, you're going to have to get back up and lead that resilient life.
Jason, I always get so excited when I get to have a conversation with you and talk about stuff like this. You're so inspiring. And again, we align on so many things. So it's always a breath of fresh air to hear you talk, get your perspective. And I, like I said, am looking forward to seeing you in person at Sandlot. We're going to put up the links. So if you want to join us down at the Sandlot Festival, we'll have the TMF promo code as well. So you can help support TMF in the process if you decide to join us down there. Jason, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Resilient Life podcast.
Thanks as always, Ryan.